Oh, hey.
Hey there, how are you today, Amber?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
I love your hair.
Thank you. I got some wigs.
Cool.
So I have my puppy with me.
Oh, great.
Sorry, she's being very. I have to keep her on the leash, but she's retractable leash.
How is she
But
doing?
I'm doing okay. How about you?
I'm good.
I don't. I personally don't check or read a lot of the comments
Yeah.
on most of my stuff because for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
it brings me like low self-esteem.
Yeah, I figured that out
Yeah, you did.
recently.
I had to tell you because
Yeah.
I don't want you to have bad self-esteem. Faith's like, ooh, do you see Faith?
Oh, hi. Cute. I have my puppy too.
Oh, one of my
Yeah.
friends wanted you to bring on your cockatoo.
I need to do that, but she's asleep right now
Oh, okay,
because it's 10 o'clock here.
sorry. Yeah, so you're in Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in San Diego,
Mm-hmm.
and thank you for staying up.
Oh,
Um,
no, I would be up. I stay up. So, of course.
so okay, well, I don't really have like a major topic that I wanted to touch base on. I had a pretty boring weekend because how was your Memorial Day?
It was pretty chill. I didn't really make any plans, but I did meet my ex and exchange, and so that was a little difficult, my 14-year-old daughter.
You
And her just going there was kind of difficult. And so some friends invited me out for sushi. So that's pretty much what I did for Memorial Day.
okay?
What about you?
Um, so wait, so do you like live? Are you married, or do you have you have an ex-husband and you guys have to share a co?
Yeah, I'm married and also so I'm divorced and then I remarried. So,
So
yeah.
it's painful to like have to go and like still like give your other.
Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult to because I do want my 14-year-old to have a relationship with her dad, of course. It's difficult though when she goes there like to visit during the summer.
Oh, does she?
So,
Where does she go?
it's like it's down south, like in the middle of nowhere. So,
Okay,
yeah.
that's a good parent though. Like some people don't want their kids to like have anything to do with their other parent.
Yeah, I can understand that, but yeah, it feels like it should be her choice,
Yeah,
really.
I mean, I feel like that needs to be their choice as well. Your makeup looks really pretty today. I was actually gonna just tell you.
Oh, thank you. I was feeling like it was storming here earlier, and I was like, oh no, I'm not gonna look very good today, but
No, you
it's
look
fine.
great. So I was gonna say something like make a comment on that. I feel like that needs to be their choice as well. Once they get, I guess, old enough to make that choice, maybe, or maybe I don't know. Who knows how old um that choice is made. I don't have kids, but all I know is that like I did come from I did not live without a father. I
Mm-hmm.
grew up. I had an abusive home. Um, I actually remember the day my stepfather like proposed to my mom and how he was like, telling me how excited he was, but I thought he was my dad. Like I didn't get it that he wasn't. And I was just like, "Oh yeah, that sounds like a great idea." You know? And then so I grew up with a stepfather, but then things just started being like really weird, especially when like my half brother came and I was just like, how was I born in in California and you guys were all from Colorado and something just doesn't feel right. And finally, when I discovered it, because I'm nosy, like I was an FBI
Mm-hmm.
agent long before you know. And I was just like snooping around, like, in all these cabinets, and
Yeah.
finally found like the information that said that, like, on the family baby like book or whatever, like who
Hmm.
I was and who my family was actually, and who my father was, and it wasn't who the father was who I grew up with. And I was like, wow, this makes a lot of sense. But my mom didn't deny it, and she had it all ready for me to like explain. And then she said, here's the number to call if you want to talk to them.
Oh, wow.
And then I said, okay. And she explained like who my family was. My uncle was like a boxer and all this stuff. And I didn't care because, I didn't care. But that, you know, they live in California, blah, blah, blah. And so
Hmm.
I was like, well, I guess I want to meet them or something. And I met my dad in California when I was like 12 years old. But it wasn't, I was already too far gone in abusive land for my family. And I didn't connect with him. And I was already just like gone. Like, so I came back, and the next time I talked to him, I was like 16. And I didn't have any animosity or any, I just didn't feel like connecting with my father. I just like, I don't feel like, I was already surviving an abusive relationship with my stepfather. So I just didn't want to like, and I was just thought it was like weird. I was just trying to understand, like, but I was like, thank God this isn't really my. I was like, I knew something was different. Like, I
Yeah.
was like, I knew I wasn't like, I knew I didn't belong to these people because I hated my life so much.
So it was just too long before you could bond with your bio dad.
I never really have. Um, we bond because we're blood,
Yeah.
and because he hasn't really done, like, my mother's done way too much toxic stuff to me. She'll never be allowed back in my life. My father, he
Mhm.
is just like, um, it's too awkward, but he's my dad or whatever. So, he's my father. I don't really want him to, like, he's kind of annoying.
Hmm. Have
And
you met your uncle?
oh yeah, I've met my uncle. He's not very nice to me. He's really rude as well.
Okay.
He's really rude. He was very rude to me. He forced me to leave like an event that it was a charity event that I was at. He forced me to leave until I like he refused to come in until I was gone. That's how my family gatherings go. And I was like, called my dad. I was like, my dad, like Uncle Oscar or whatever, won't come in until I leave. He was like, well, I guess you gotta leave. Like, and I just wanted people to be proud of me. That's all I've ever wanted, is like to people to be proud. You know.
Well, you've done a lot of things to be proud of.
Well, I've done a lot of things not to be proud of though too. So,
Well, we all
and
have,
as a
but
as that family is, they're like, they already have a prideful thing. So, um, nobody wants their name like that, especially when they worked really hard to have their name run through the, on the other side. Here comes this other
Mhm.
person, and they're like out there, but I'm not doing it on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's absurd for them to be so judgmental, I think. Um, their loss, really.
Well, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter to me,
Yeah.
and it does matter because it hurt my feelings really badly. Actually, I was really embarrassed. I was completely stunned, like, that he would act like that, because
Yeah.
I heard nothing but good things about him. I've only ever said good things about my uncle, like, obviously. Um, but to have that come across me was
Yeah.
it was like really, at the time I didn't understand it at all. I was in my late 20s. I was definitely on in my addiction. Well, thank you. And that's fair.
Yeah.
It's it's a family thing. It's a cultural thing. It's a bunch of things, and
Hmm.
I can't argue with it. So I had to do I had to do what needed to be done. It was something that I couldn't argue with. I had to go, so I had to leave.
Yeah.
It's a seniority thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things into it, and I just had to buck up and go. And I was really just sad, but it is what it is, and that was a long time ago. So
Yeah, so I have seen a lot of people debating like whether that's your uncle or not, and it's really frustrating me because like you can totally just find research that
you can like look and
and
see that
see
we have
that.
a stupid shaped face. So
Sorry?
I mean, you could just look at us and see that we like look exactly like. I mean, we have the same dumb shaped face for one.
Well, I mean, in every news channel that has written about it says that, and they research as well, and so
But it's just a weird thing because yeah, it's a weird. Why would I ever say like, oh, like out of all the people in the world I would pick, like I didn't pick that for my uncle.
yeah,
My mom did, I guess. I don't know. You know, like
yeah.
protecting. That's not really my thing. I'm not into
Hmm.
sports.
So I relate to you somewhat because my mom was very abusive to me. Um, I am trying to help her now. I think we've talked about it
Yeah,
because I don't know why. I feel like she doesn't have anybody, I guess, but I mean, it's hard. It's definitely hard because she was my abuser, so
yeah,
I can understand that feeling where you're just like, I've cut her off before.
yeah. I mean, I've given my mom one, two, three, chances, and I just, if you have toxic people in your life, it's okay to tell them not to come back, and
Yeah,
we have to learn boundaries.
yeah,
Learning boundaries,
yeah. You have to protect yourself.
but it is hard when you're a vulnerable person,
Yes,
and
yeah.
especially if you're an addict. And I know some people were saying in the last clip, but there were some people were concerned because I wasn't, checking into like a rehab or anything. But I am sober. I've been still sober for over a year now, and I didn't relapse. Like I didn't go out and like have a drink or use meth or cocaine. I've actually been sober off of those things for over a year now, and I do take prescription medication.
Hmm.
But sometimes I, don't. Sometimes I had overtook that, and that was also my DOC. My drug of choice was amphetamines
Yeah.
and prescription medications. So when I called the rehab, they were like, "We don't really accept people who don't have like a meth or like an alcohol or
Hmm.
cocaine problem. Prescription drugs aren't really our thing." And that's kind of sad because here in in this country, prescription drugs are so like important to everybody that if you take them wrong, I'm addicted to you know I'm an addict in the general sense. I admit that. I go to AAs, I go to NAs, I
Hmm.
go to an outpatient program. They actually test me for drugs every like week. I just completed a certificate of completion for having a clean UA record for the last
Hmm.
24 weeks, which is an accomplishment for me. I think that's really great. I think I'm very happy to be able to say that.
That's that's great. Yeah.
Um,
Great.
and that's something that but do have I had my mishaps? Yes, I mismanaged some medication. So I was like, you know what, maybe I better go and check into a rehab because if I'm having that, sort of like problem, then it could lead to some other problems. It's gonna lead to more prescription pills. It's gonna lead to like wanting more. It's gonna lead to like, wanting to get away with other stuff.
Mhm.
And so, that's where the go in, and if this isn't helping, if this isn't helping, and this isn't helping, you might want to try something a little bit more severe. So when I called them, they said, "We're sorry, but we're not accepting those kinds of treatments."
Yeah.
So
And I mean, yeah, I've seen people comment that, but I know that you said that. And so initially I was trying to, respond, "Oh, she's an outpatient, like she's working on
yeah, I think
herself.
an
She's doing all this
outpatient.
great thing." And
Well, I mean, I understand. Like, you know what? That's nice. It helps hold me accountable. And I appreciate.
mhm.
It helps me be held me accountable for my actions, for what I'm gonna say. If I'm gonna say I'm gonna do something, then I better do it. And then that's why, it's best to just, like, rather than talk about it and whatever, just be about it and do it. And
Yeah.
it turns out that, like, I've been so far, I want to get off my prescription medications. My doctor doesn't want me to get off my prescription medication. I'm bipolar. I have ADHD. I have uh anxiety, and I have PTSD, and that's a real
Mhm.
fact. And I don't want to really take medication. When I don't take my medication, sometimes people are like, "Are you on drugs?" Because I'm like, "Blah, blah, blah." And then when I do take my medications, people are like, but then again, then I'm like, sometimes I'm like, let's take more medication, because sometimes I also use those
Mhm.
things to self harm. So I'm like, those are sometimes those can be dangerous for me, because I don't know how to properly just be a normal human being, have addict thinking and addict behavior. So some of my friends were just concerned about me with that situation, and it really hurt my
Mhm.
feelings. But at the same time, I can see where they're coming from. I can see where they're like, "Hey, we thought you said you were gonna do this shit. Why are you like backtracking?"
Yeah, and I was gonna say that, like, okay, we are both neurodivergent, and so some people might think that, oh, maybe they're on something. But just because we act different doesn't mean we're on something. Like, we just have different personalities.
Yeah, and two neurodivergent people, especially, I didn't know that about you, but they, like, for me, I get like really extra because, like, it starts like making me more ADHD and stuff. So, like,
So,
like, somebody who's like
like, you build
Cunningham,
on
like,
each
what?
other and you, like,
What? I
excite each
can't watch
other.
this. They're like, what have you been saying? Just But the thing is like, I don't want to take medications. Because I'm so sick of, like, getting up every day, taking some pills. I've been doing that for like over 20 years. I'm sick of it. I
Yeah.
associate that. I don't associate that with getting better. I associate that with drug use, because that's what I've been doing. So to me, it's like a trigger. But
Yeah.
my psychiatrist says that that's what I have to do, because I have. And I'm not saying anyone should or should not do anything. I would never tell anyone to do anything. You do what you
Mhm.
want to do. I'm just trying to figure out what works best for me and my body chemistry, so that I can live a stable, sober, clear-headed life without having, um, erratic emotional. I have erratic emotional behaviors, and if that means that I have to live through those erratic emotional behaviors without a medication, I would love. Then then that could work, because aren't we just masking it anyways?
I mean, I get in the same loop. I'm like, is this just like a band-aid and I'm just supposed to do this every day for the rest of my life?
Right. It's
Um,
like, okay,
when am I
really,
gonna learn how to, cope without this?
right.
What if one day I go to the pharmacy and they don't have my medication? Like, am I
And
just
it
fucked?
happened.
Like,
Yeah, it happened.
yeah,
And that used to happen to me with the Adderall, but that was a drug that I wanted, as like,
yes.
I needed it.
Adderall is so hard to get now at the
It is,
pharmacy.
but I
Like,
don't.
it's a
I'm
big
glad I've been sober
shortage.
off of it for over a year. I was on that drug for like 20 years.
Yeah,
Um, just because I'm outside, because I don't have a. That was the other thing. One of my friends was really mad at me because I didn't have like a studio. But
this is,
I feel like
I,
I don't have. It's not like I'm not like homeless. I live in a shelter for women, but I can't like afford a studio. A lot of money to pay for a studio to go like record our thing. I can record anywhere, but I'm busy doing like outpatient stuff. So,
I think it's great. A lot of people have said that they feel like they're just hanging out with us and they
yeah,
feel good and
and
accepted and
outside,
they're just
I'm like, what's
enjoying
wrong?
it.
I'm like, what's wrong with going outside? But he's just protective of me, I think. Anyway, so I don't know what you want to talk about now. What?
Oh yeah. Well, we were supposed to talk about Rock of Love, but we got off on other deep stuff. So, um, I guess regarding Rock of Love, like you started talking about like how you ended up on there. Do you want to talk about like any, I don't know, memorable experiences, like good or bad, on the show because people are obsessed with it and watching it again?
I'm glad that people like to watch it. I think that's really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Every moment was memorable. It was a great experience. It's one of the greatest experiences of my life. So, you know, being in Brett's room was, getting to spend time with him was a really great moment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, not like in that way, ever,
Yeah.
but like being,
What was
I'm
great
like,
about
it
it?
was just like cool to hang out with, I mean, Brett Michaels is a respectable musician, and so he's a respectable person for the most part, and
Hmm.
it just I felt like I was talking with my equal, not like a in a weird way, but just like in a way of like being able to finally connect with, instead of being in the house with all these women who just are like
Yeah.
haggling, you know, drunk, like, freaking like octopuses or whatever. They're like, I'm finally getting to talk to someone who can have like, a camaraderie with, or share like some type of like, you know,
Like
experience.
deep
Yeah,
discussions.
like something that's like, okay, let's try to like connect with this person rather than trying to be like, in some weird competition with all these girls and drinking every day. Like, because I'm not really about competing with people. I really wasn't about competing with you. So that's why I didn't try to, I'm about survival,
Hmm.
but I'm not about like, I have to go out and be competitive against you. Like, I have to be better than you. It's about like, I gotta survive, you know?
Yeah.
And you're probably gonna hurt me. Like, you seem like you're
Yeah.
gonna hurt me. So, like, you're gonna throw the football at me, and the football's gonna hurt me. So, like, get out of my way. Stay away from me.
So is that like terrifying, kind of being in a house with like all these women that are, I mean, and everybody's drinking like all the time and really competitive and
I
like
thought it was boring.
manipulative?
I thought it was boring. I was also coming off of a cocaine binge, so I thought it was boring, but it was also like something that I prayed to God for. Remember,
Hmm.
I told you that last episode, the episode before.
You were bored, like
I
you're,
was
what were
bored
you
sitting around
doing?
the house like drinking, because drinking really wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work to drink. You gotta like, and then plus it's like bloating and like,
Yeah.
and I don't like to be sick. So for
Hmm.
me, I was like, this is effing boring, like I want to like do something cool. So when they started doing like the music video thing, I was like, oh, this is like way better. This is way more interesting, like something actually exciting is going on rather than just like, here, everybody, here's some liquor. I was just like,
Yeah.
I was like, this is boring as fuck. But
So
you
you're like sitting around a
know,
lot of the
some
time?
some women really did like to, some people do really like to drink, but I really wasn't a huge drinker unless there was cocaine involved. So obviously, we weren't doing cocaine on the show.
Hmm.
And I was actually detoxing. Nobody knew that, except for me and God.
I can't imagine. That seems like it would be a lot, like just a lot in that kind of environment.
It was exciting though. No, it was fun.
Mhm.
And then it was like thinking of ways to like take down take down people or something, you know, or like thinking of ways of like what you know, but all like in good fun. In my head, it was in good fun because I wasn't really there to try to like talk anybody out, like mentally or physically or
Yeah.
anything. Like, I would never like wish that on anyone, like seriously. But how can you be like funny about it and like do like things that are funny? Like
Yeah.
put like shaving cream on their head, or like do something that's like because they're drunk anyway. So like
Um,
good old college fun or something.
did you go on any of I can't remember, on the bus ones, like the Rock of Love tour bus or whatever?
I didn't. That was Farah and Ashley.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
What,
So they were
like
a part
what?
of, they were a part of that, and so was um there was another girl and I forgot her name, but she had dark hair and she was all tatted up, and I think she was on the Rock of Love bus for a while.
Okay.
She was a very popular
And
girl.
then, so like, when did they told you they were going to give you your own show, I guess, at some point?
Yeah.
How did
So
that go?
um they just called me up, and I was supposed to have dinner with them, and we were going to talk about being on the next charm school.
Yeah.
And then I know I had just moved to Los Angeles, and then they said, well, actually, we want you to have your own show. And I was like, really? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, oh my god, it's so exciting. I was like, that's so cool. They're like, yeah, we love you, and like we think you're awesome, and we really want you to have your own show, and like we're gonna call it Daisy Love, and we're gonna do this, and it's gonna be. And I'm like, oh my god, it was so amazing. Like it was really neat. So
Yeah, that's a big deal. Like, I mean, you got your own show out of it. I don't know that anybody else did they? I don't remember.
yeah, like Megan had her own show. It was called Megan
Megan.
Wants a Millionaire.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Are you still in touch with any of the girls from that?
I'm still in touch with I mean I haven't spoken to them lately because I've been focusing on my rehab and in my recovery. I've
Mhm.
been that was a really big traumatic thing that happened in my life. So it was very traumatic. Like one of the most traumatic things I've been through in my 20 or 42 plus years. So as a result, I haven't been talking to anybody. I'm just barely getting my senses and my motivation to want to like be able to go out there and do art again, because I've been focusing on getting like a normal job, which I've had,
Yeah.
and doing things that are safe for me so that I don't go back into a relapse, which is
Yeah.
important because especially in the line of work that I do, going to a club, going to those are things that are like baby steps for me right now. And I have to be very careful.
Mm-hmm.
Who I hang out with, who I associate with, and how I represent myself when I'm around them, because I don't want my old personality to come out.
Yeah.
I don't want my old Vanessa slash old Daisy or whatever to like come back, because then that old behavior and those old thinking will just follow her, and then I would have done all this work, gone through all this pain and everything for nothing, painstaking,
Mm-hmm.
as I say, and I'll be right back at square one, and I feel like I'm gonna cry because I, that can easily happen to me just like that, because I'm so deep in it. A person who is such the classic case addict. If I don't work a program, if I don't go to an outpatient, if I don't have a
Mm-hmm.
sponsor, if I don't go to church and pray, I will go right back to my same thing. That's how like serious I have to take my recovery. So for people to
Yeah.
like, oh, she's on drugs or well, look like I'm on, but if I am on drugs, like, please don't encourage me. But I'm not. This is how I am, like, on lots of caffeine, because those are my only choices now. Those are my only choices now. I
Well,
don't,
that's what I was saying is that when people see neurodivergent people, they just, I think, assume that we're on drugs and we're not.
yeah, that is
Um,
true. They do. A lot of times people are like, but when you're not on, and that's another reason why, though, I think to myself, do I really need these medications, though? Sometimes, well, if I took them when I take them normal, like I'm supposed to take them like a normal human being, they do focus me and mellow me out. But
mhm.
if I was well, like when I'm taking the Adderall, I mean, I was taking like the Adderall like it was cocaine or meth because it
Yeah.
actually is, and that was why I loved it so much. And,
Yeah.
and I was not taking one or two or three or four or five or six. I was taking like 10 at a time every like
That's,
couple
yeah.
hours because I was so like addicted to them.
I can't hardly, like, I'm prescribed it too, and like, I can't hardly take it because I just can't deal with who I've become.
Right. Well, and then I was taking a lot of other medications, and then on top of that, I was doing drugs, and I wasn't drinking, but I was sorry, and I was doing uh you know cocaine. I was doing cocaine, and I was doing a bunch of other prescription drugs, Xanax, and stuff like that, on top of and so I'm lucky I'm alive. So I have to keep
Yeah.
remembering that, because if I don't, I'll go into a serious relapse. So when I like take a little bit more of my medication, that's a relapse to me, and I'm like, and if I'm like calling the Kiva to be like, I need to check into rehab, and they're like, no, you don't. I'm like, yes, I do, because I don't want that to happen ever again. I was doing not good stuff. I was about to go into a schizophrenic break. Like, I've already been to a mental break. My next step was like schizophrenic break. That's how much I was doing. So I don't want to go that. My dog's looking at me like, Mom.
Are you okay? She's like, are you okay?
So we don't. I don't want to go there, and I don't want anyone else to want to have to go there. If they don't want to. There's help out there. Um, there's meetings, there's sponsors, there's God. You know,
Mhm.
I'm not saying I talk to God when all else fails. God, for like a while there, I was like, God this, God that, God this. You know, pray for my puppy. Keep us safe, like everything.
So, if you were to talk to someone who's like deep in their addiction, like what would be your advice to help them? Like what's the first step you would tell them to do?
Well, I would say, you got to do what everyone says, and that's what the first step says. You got to admit to yourself that you have a problem. And if you can't admit that you have a problem, then there's no help for you.
Yeah, that's true. You can't force anyone to get sober. They have to like really see it and want it.
You and until someone says like can say like that's you, and that has to be something that they have to discover on their own. They
Mhm.
have to like the first like two to three steps are the very most important ones, and then everything else after that is equally important. But the first one step is important. Number one is the most important step, obviously. Number two is very important, and number three is extraordinarily important as well. Number one says the first thing you have to do is you have to admit you have a problem. Pardon my language. You have a
Mhm.
dripping problem. You have a problem.
Mhm.
Once you admit to yourself or to anyone else, then you have to admit that problem to someone else, and you have to have the guts and the you have to. I was crawling on hands and knees to God. Please, God, please help me. That's what I did.
And then
I crawled on my hands and knees to God. That's how bad my problem was. I crawled on the ground day after day, begging God to help me. until he finally said, I don't know. And I have to remember that this is a good conversation. Because sometimes life goes on and we forget.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, that's what was happening. And my friends came to my rescue. The people who do these things to help others, who, because it
Hmm.
was either that or go on the streets.
Yeah.
So it's all really up to everyone individually. But the first thing we have to try to come to as addicts or alcoholics is we have to admit to ourselves we have a problem. And then we
Hmm.
have to want to try to seek help. Until then, we can't, you know, we have to admit that we're addicts. We're alcoholics. I'm an addict. I'm an alcoholic. I'm addicted to everything. Love, food, everything. Beauty, every single thing that there is, I'm addicted to it. It sucks. But I also have to do something about it.
Hmm.
So I'm willing to do the steps of like what needs to be done. Am I perfect? No. Am I a
Well, no one's
procrastinator?
no
Am I a
one's perfect.
procrastinator with some things? Yes, I am. But like, you know, I'm doing my best. I'm doing the best I can. So So anyways, what about you?
What do you mean? What about me and about what?
Let's talk more about let's talk about things about that you've done. Have you
Oh
been
my
on any
God.
Rock of Love shows? Have you been on any shows?
I have not. I think I told you I was cast on Bad Girls Club.
No, you didn't tell me that actually.
Oh, well, okay. I tried out for the Real World and they cast me on Bad Girls Club. And my ex-husband was very against it. And so I didn't end up doing it. But it was the season with all the Ambers.
What?
So,
What?
yeah, I think there were like three other Ambers, and so I would have been one of them. Um,
You would have been like the season of Ambers.
but I was in a very dark place at that time, so I don't know how it would have like benefited me, but also just it's hard for people to understand, but just being in a relationship where you give your power away. A lot of people are like, why didn't you do this or why didn't you do that? And like it just was a gradual since I was 14, I was with him and I was just gradually giving my power away. And
Wow.
eventually I just had no power and just had no friends and no life.
How were
Um,
you able to like leave that relationship?
um, I started getting help and I checked myself into, I was suicidal. I actually tried to kill myself. I took, like bottles of pills, all the pills I could find. And then I just remember looking in the mirror and I was like, there has to be like something else. Like I was just like, like God has to step in, like something has to change. Like, I don't want to die like this. This can't be the end. I went to the emergency room and then they pumped my stomach. Um, they told me I was gonna die, that you know, the blood was toxic, so they did a blood transfusion and I fell asleep thinking that I was not gonna be okay. And then I just remember praying, like, please, like, give me one more chance. I will fucking do this. I will do anything, like, just one more chance. And I woke up and I was totally fine.
Hmm.
Like, I had no lasting damage. I have scars from it, but like, I checked myself into a mental hospital and yeah, it was just a long ordeal. And finally, like, I got through it, I guess. I'm here. But I think I had to go through all that and like hit rock
What did you
bottom.
do to like so you checked yourself into this mental hospital and they helped you get away from this
Um,
person?
I mean, kind of like we were kind like he ran off at that point. it's a long story. But I did check myself in, and I mean, they just kind of drugged me. Like when I was having, it didn't help me. When I was like panicking or having hard times, they would just give me Ativan and like drug me up, and um he like drove off with my phone and my keys and my purse and my medication and everything. And I just kind of like, I don't know, I was obsessed with him, and I just kind of like cried for like months probably. And then my husband now actually started like and was like checking in on me and
What's
was
it?
like, you
You
know,
guys share a daughter?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, we have a daughter.
Okay.
She's 6. We've been together since 2012, so it's been a while, but he was just like, I see like you struggling, and like I've been through some similar stuff. He's 26 years sober, and he's in AA, and so um yeah, we just started spending a lot of time together, and I realized that I didn't want to be treated the way that I was anymore. I think that I ran to my ex-husband because like my house, my family growing up, I was just like, I want to get away. And yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a
So
really hard situation too. It's just like drugs, you know,
yeah.
and they can often all go hand in hand, and they
Mm-hmm.
elevate you, and to the point where you are helpless. And but you're
Yes.
also, um, I can't speak for everybody, but sometimes you are really super in love with them, and then sometimes you're just like, I don't know what everyone else thinks, but my relationships, I've always been in love with people, but it's hard for me to leave that
Mhm.
too because
Yeah.
I have a fear of abandonment. I've been abandoned, but I was really abused, and in the last relationship I had was very toxic. A lot of that was my fault, and I created a lot of that toxicity, and especially with my drug use. And so, the next relationship that I have, I don't want that kind of behavior. I don't want that kind of behavior in my life. I don't want that from myself, and I surely don't want that from I didn't have that receive that kind of toxic drug use behavior from my partner because I would never, I don't ever, I would say I would I don't want that kind of partner. So if I don't want
Mhm.
that kind of partner, I don't want that kind of behavior from them. I don't want to, I have to not have that kind of behavior as well. But it's not always that easy. So, sometimes,
Mhm.
women especially suffer as being, you know, in an abusive relationship because it is sometimes once you take away like one drug, we, as addicts, speaking for myself, um, we can go and switch into another drug, which is love.
Yes. Yeah, I struggled with love addiction a lot.
It's a real
Mhm.
true thing. It is different from sex addiction, um, which is also a thing. Love addiction, sex addiction. Um,
Mhm.
there's all types of addictions out there. It's not just like you're on drugs, and they all go into the same kind of thing. Is that person? We as addicts have, you know, compulsive behaviors, and one is never enough, and and two is too many or whatever. We have to, like, I want to try to be, self-control. I have to try to do all these things, and it doesn't just go with like, oh, you're acting erratically. Your behavior is like, yeah, maybe I drank a lot of coffee that day. Like,
Yeah.
but that's besides the point of, like, you know. But hopefully anything that I'm saying or that I'm doing can help others, and that's what I'm here to also want to do, especially with like this
Mhm.
podcast. I don't want to just come
Yeah.
on here and like talk a bunch of gibberish. I want to make a point of
Yeah.
helping others and inspiring others, and talking about things that matter to others, not just myself and not just you. So,
Yeah, I agree. That's what I was thinking before when I was freaking out about like some of the negative comments was like, oh well, I mean, if we help like one other person, that is beneficial to me.
Yeah, that's
So,
that's always been my thing with my stories of like my story of survival, and I keep surviving hopefully, and it also helps me to keep wanting to keep going because I also do suffer from suicidal tendencies, which is something that a lot of people just try to explain that to somebody and they just can't. They can't. Sometimes they can't fathom that one at all. Drug addiction to people is hard enough to
mhm.
explain to them, but when you try to explain mixing that in there, they're just like, you know. But anyways, I definitely So I'm gonna go ahead and sign off because I got to get going. Is there anything else you want
Okay.
to talk about, or is there anything else you missed, or that you want to say, or that we want to start bringing on some guests, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Like next time you said, or
Yeah.
next time,
So
or
well,
the next,
I just came out with I'm
your
coming
movie, or your
a premiere.
movie.
Yeah, a movie. It's a short. It's more like a short little indie film, very short.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very grateful. Producer's name is Michael Kordock, and
Mm-hmm.
this film is a psychological thriller, and we shot it in like one day, which was good, time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, I love music. Music is my thing, and I would like to do more acting, but I'm very uh curious to see how this turns out and see if there's any
Mm-hmm.
other things like that in store for me. Otherwise, I do like to stick to what I love. What I love. I love acting. And I want to become good at it. I hope this will be something that can become something so that I can become better at that as well, so I can have more flourishing moments in acting. Um, and I'm very grateful to be able to be a part of that. So, and we can show the clip,
Yeah,
and
that sounds
then
great.
we'll see what everyone else has been talking about throughout the week, and we'll just meet up
Mm-hmm.
then and see what's going on.
That sounds good.
All right, all right. Well,
Yeah,
all right. Take it easy.
you too. It was good to see you, and good. Thanks to
Yeah,
everyone for being
you're very
supportive.
beautiful today.
Bye.
Goodbye.
So be sure to check out our next episode to find out more about where we've been, where we're going, and just hang out.